Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another third-party unlicensed 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at the Young Rich Toys Miles Morales 3.0, specifically the school uniform version. This, I'm pretty sure, is the last Into the Spider-Verse figure that Young Rich Toys were still yet to release, so this guy kind of wraps up the line. I'm hoping he's a darn good figure. They've impressed me with their Into the Spider-Verse figures. Everything else has been a little bit lackluster. Either way, I got mine from Comic Sanctorum, but do bear in mind this is a third-party unofficial product. I've popped the link in the description below for your reference purposes only. This is not a promotional video, this is a review on a figure I picked up for my own personal collection. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art, and surprisingly this box is a lot smaller than usual. I would guess that the school uniform version of Miles doesn't come with that massive backdrop and the sticker sheet and all that other stuff that requires the box to be a little bit bigger, so this makes perfect sense. On the front we do have an image of Miles in his final battle suit, which is not what the figure is wearing inside the box. A bit of a weird choice by Young Rich Toys. On the side we do have their logo done in a metallic foil, and then on the back all of the warnings plus Miles Morales 3.0. But we're not really here to dissect the box, we're more here to look at Miles himself. And here he is. Now, I would suspect that he's using the same underlying body as all of the previous Miles figures. He just has some new head sculpts and, of course, a brand new outfit. Up on top, there is one block of foam with a ton of accessories, and another down below. What we are going to do now is get all of the accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now, starting off with the display base first, it's done in the usual Young Rich Toys style. Spider-Man up on top, his name etched into a metal nameplate on the front, and then a regular crotch grabber. Now, with this release, you are getting two brand new Miles head sculpts, and they are significantly different from the previous releases. The first of which is this one. It's definitely the goofier of the two, but I like the expression. It's obviously from the "hey" scene, which totally works for the school uniform version of Miles. There is a ton of texture in the hair, and the skin tone looks fairly animation accurate. You also have the addition of some frown lines up on top on both sculpts, which is something that I think the previous versions were sorely lacking. This one is a lot more serious, but his eyes are off to one side. Again, it's something different, and if you own the other versions of Miles, you now have a ton of head sculpts to choose from. This is a first for me. It's a 1/6 scale suitcase. It's fully padded, but the zippers are real and working, so you can open it up, remove the padding, and then use this suitcase to store his accessories. You can also extend the handle on the back. These struts are real metal, and of course it slides down back in place. You also have a basketball-shaped luggage tag. I really like this suitcase. You also get the same backpack as we've seen with the previous releases. You've got some clips up on top that can be, of course, detached, and then a zipper that works its way around the outside, plus some padding inside the backpack itself. You can once again store his accessories inside it. This is another first. It's a 1/6 scale basketball. Now, I know various companies have made 1/6 scale basketballs before, but I've never picked up any that have had one included. This actually feels convincingly like a shrunk down basketball. It has a rubbery texture to it, there is a ton of detail on the surface, including a bunch of branding, which is rather naughty because don't forget, this figure is unlicensed. You also get a pair of Sony branded headphones. They do have some articulation down below. You can kind of finagle this onto Miles' head, or you can simply pop them around his neck. You do get a cell phone with Uncle Aaron on the screen. He's of course on the phone to the Prowler. It's simply an unpainted black hunk of plastic. Lastly, in terms of the accessories themselves, you get a bunch of paperwork. With that being said, the paperwork is awesome. You do get a pen, so you can have him doodling and sketching, or you can have him filling out the test, which unfortunately he tried to fail, but we all know he didn't, and then you have some notepads as well, plus a few stickers with those name symbols. But by far the coolest thing in here is a proper 1/6 scale Spider-Man comic with details printed on every page. I don't know if they are legible, I'm of course talking about the speech bubbles, but I really like that they decided to include a mini 1/6 scale Spider-Man comic. Lastly, you get a full array of hands. These are of course just regular ungloved hands, and we've seen them before with the previous Miles figures. What we are going to do now though is get Miles himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that, and he pretty much does what it says on the tin. This is a school uniform version of Miles. He comes with 2 new head sculpts, a bunch of awesome accessories, and the school uniform itself. The body is still exactly the same, for better or worse, as with the previous Miles figures. They have made a few tweaks. The ankles are slightly sturdier, but he does still tend to topple over. If you've owned any of the other Miles figures, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but for the most part, yes, I am still pretty satisfied. This is exactly what I was expecting. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now in just a second we will switch out the head sculpt to see what that looks like on the body, but for now I'm kind of digging the way this one looks. Now it's worth noting that it does sit a little bit lower on the neck. If you don't pull down the shirt to get the collar to sit as flat and as low as possible, it will look like he has no neck. So out of the box, do make sure you give this a little bit of a tug downwards, just so it sits nice and in place. Now I know we've already discussed both head sculpts, but with the eyes looking off to the side, it makes for a very interesting and slightly different Miles Morales head sculpt. I know, it's not going to be for everyone, but I like the way it looks on the body. Now, as for the body itself, it is the exact same one that they used for their previous Miles figures. With that being said, the proportions are a little bit weird. I can get around that because this guy is supposed to be an animated character anyway, but I'm pretty sure the Hot Toys body that they'll be using for their Miles is going to be vastly superior. His limbs are going to be a lot slimmer, so it's more animation accurate, whereas this one is kind of just a normal teenage body with the proportions slightly stretched out. Now, as for the outfit, it's relatively simple. He's wearing his school blazer with the patch up top and some very nice vibrant yellow buttons. I don't know why I like those as much as I do. He also has a grey jumper and then a blue tie plus a white shirt underneath, so you do have multiple layers up top. He then has his grey pants that end right above his socks, so they're kind of like 3/4 length trousers. Of course, in the movie he kind of grows overnight once bitten by the spider, so this makes perfect sense. It is accurate to the film. When he puts his school uniform on, he looks down and his pants are now far too short. You do also have some striped red and white socks, plus his Nikes down below that are super detailed. You've got a ton of texture on the surface, the laces are undone, and then an accurate sole down below with another Nike logo. As for the second head sculpt, this one is very goofy, I will admit. It kind of looks even more so on the body. It's from that scene where, of course, he says, "Hey," so it does work, but only in certain poses. For me, I will be displaying this figure with the other head sculpt. I just prefer the way it looks. This one can come off a little bit weird, but I am curious to hear which one you prefer. Let me know down in the comments below. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the school uniform version on the left, the 3.0, and I guess the 2.0, the battlesuit version on the right. Now it's going to be down to personal preference which of the two looks you prefer. There's no denying it though, the one on the right is more iconic. It's the final suit from the movie, the figure himself comes with a ton more accessories, so that is my winner. But I still do like the school uniform version, and on my copy, they've tightened up the ankles so he stands a lot better, which was one of my biggest complaints with the original. As for the head sculpts, I do love the smiling one, it's my favourite all day long, but the new one with the eyes off to the side, it's also no slouch. Some would say it's potentially too sad or too serious. Miles went through a lot of stuff in the movie, including the loss of his uncle, so having a range of emotions with the various head sculpts, in my opinion, is always a good thing. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a ball joint at the base of the head, and the neck is a rubbery one. However, you don't get a ton of range before it springs back into place. It does, however, look up a significant way, swivel and then pivot side to side. The arms will go up to there. They will of course go forward and back, but you do have multiple layers at play. There's a jacket, there's a jumper, there's a shirt, so it's a little bit more restricted. Butterfly joint at the shoulder. You don't have any swivel at the bicep, but you do have swivel down here at the elbow, and you also have a single bend that will go to about 90. You also have a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. The torso does crunch forward and back just a little, swivel, and then a teeny amount of pivot side to side. The legs will go forward to there, they will go out to there, but due to the undersized nature of the pants, which we've discussed is accurate, they don't go out a ton. Swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee, and lastly a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just wrapping up on the Young Rich Toys civilian school uniform version of Miles Morales from Into the Spider-Verse. Now going into this, I knew exactly what to expect. This isn't my first or second rodeo when it comes to reviewing Young Rich Toys figures. I've seen quite a few. While this one isn't quite as impressive as some of the previous releases, it's still really good. The accessories are fantastic, including that fully printed 1/6 scale Spider-Man comic. You're getting 2 brand new head sculpts and the school uniform. I know there are those of you out there who specifically collect civilian versions of your heroes, and this is exactly that. I will be displaying my Hot Toys Miles in the battlesuit, then this guy right next to him, so I have the best of both worlds. The only downside here is the body isn't aging well. The ankles, even though they are slightly improved over the other two versions, they still let this guy down, so much so that I've had to use the display base for the outro, where normally the figure would be standing on his own, but he kept toppling over. He is still an awesome release, but that's something you're going to have to contend with. Now, I got mine from Comic Sanctorum, but do bear in mind this is a third-party, unlicensed, unofficial product. That means Young Rich Toys don't have the correct intellectual property rights to actually make this figure. I have popped the link in the description below for your reference purposes only. While you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.